Radio TV phono nut here, and a little change of pace. We have this wind machine by Lasko fan that I picked out of the garbage from the house across the street. I have not plugged it in. It may be fixable, it may not be. It looks kind of Chinesium to me. Looking at the back, we see the knob for the switch is gone. But if this thing's no good or can't be fixed, I'm sure it doesn't work or they wouldn't have thrown it out. But if it can't be fixed, then I'll at least get a power cord out of the deal. Alright, let's see what happens. Get in there. Yep, just as I thought, the motor buzzes, no rotation, which probably means we have a motor that's gunked up and needs to be taken apart and cleaned and lubricated. Filthy, 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 and very gummed up. Alright, let's see what holds this blade on. Is it just a compression fit, or I got to go to a lot of effort to get this thing apart? In order to get the motor out, you have to line the hole up in the blades here over the mounting screws that hold the motor in place. And then once you do that, then the switch is held in by clips here. But I'm having trouble getting these blades off of here. As you can tell, this thing is very filthy. There's a date code on the capacitor. So yeah, this is a PSC type motor. March of 2020, so this fan's about 5 years old. If nothing else, and this capacitor's good, then I might have something I can use for a capacitive dropper in a curtain burner radio. Now, I know the Lasko and Galaxy box fans that we had whenever I was growing up, the blades were held on, if I remember correctly, we're going back 40 plus years, the blades were held on with a big old clamp type thing that went over the center shaft of the blade that provided a compression fit. And I think this is a compression fit as well, but it's not wanting to come off here, and I don't want to go beating on anything because I don't want to break anything just yet. I want to at least see if this can be repaired. Alright, just a compression fit, just like I thought. I grabbed the tit at the end with the vice grips and just kept pulling, and finally it came off. So now let's see if we can get this motor apart and clean it up and oil it, and maybe it'll run again. Alright, we got the motor disassembled, and it looks like the top bushing is what was largely hung up, and I got hair wrapped around the shaft there. So yeah, this thing's pretty cruddy, and of course there's washers down in there, so we don't want to lose any of those. The name on this motor is Glory, so yeah, some Chinese piece of crap most likely. Well, I got it apart, but I had to beat it into submission. That thing was seized from gunk. So we're going to clean it up real good, oil it up real good, clean up everything, put it back together, and hopefully it'll run. Well, I hosed down the blades and all of the other parts to get all the filth off of them. And when everything dries, we'll put it back together and hope for the best. And we have the motor back together. Hopefully I got it back together right. I guess I should have went and fetched a Sharpie and put a mark on it so I would know which end went right. But if it's not, we'll just take it back apart and turn it around. But anyway, it turns smoothly now, so this thing should run. What you're hearing in the background is a four-legged canine who, for some reason, He doesn't get aggressive about his inside water bowl. But if he hears me out there running the outside faucet or messing with his water bowl, he goes berserk. If he's at the fence barking at the dogs next door, which are nothing to him, all I have to do is turn the water on and he forgets about those dogs and come attacks the water. Now when I say aggressive, I don't mean he tries to bite me or anything like that, but he just goes berserk when I'm messing with his water bowl. I cannot do anything with the water, or I cannot clean his bowl out with him out there. It's just impossible. So that's what all the commotion in the background is about. Alright, we're getting there on the reassembly. Yeah, that turns a lot smoother now than it did before. Of course, it wouldn't have taken much. So with any luck, this thing ought to run for a few more years. And it's back together. The only problem is the knob I found is held on by a set screw, and the way this is recessed up in here, I really can't get up in there to fully tighten the set screw. I just tightened it enough with the knob off the shaft where it would push up on there. It's not the best in the world, but maybe it'll work. Alright, let's turn it on and see if it goes or blows. That's better. Alright, that's pretty good spin down time. We'll turn it on, let it run a while, and might just take it back over there and give it back to them. And then again, I might hang on to it, I don't know. Alright, it seems to be running okay. Blades are a bit off balance. It's got a little vibration to it, but I don't really know what I could do about that, if anything. And that's on high, and I can tell you this moves nowhere near the amount of air that the old Phil Rich Windmaker fan from probably the late 60s, early 70s that my uncle had moved. It was a all-metal 3-speed floor fan made in the United States. I think those things were built in Texas. And that thing, even on low, would move more air than this thing does on high. And then when he passed away in '94, I wound up with that fan, and it didn't last no time before the motor let out the magic smoke in it, and I just threw it away at that point. But those old Windmaker fans, they would move some air, and that's a brand that I rarely find in my area. I remember there were some Windmaker pedestal fans at the elementary school I attended that looked similar to his, except those were on a pedestal, and they had some really old Emerson pedestal fans from probably when the school was built in the early 50s that had the open blade guards on them. That would never fly today, but back then we had sense enough not to do stupid things like stick our hand in the fan while it was in operation. Alright, I'm going to let this thing run a while, and if it doesn't do anything stupid, I'll probably take it back over there and hand it to them, see if they want it back. Tell them there wasn't no need in throwing it away. It's fixed, and maybe it'll last you a little while longer. Now I believe these fans are still available. I think they're about 40 bucks, so not a very expensive fan. I don't know what that Windmaker cost that my uncle bought. It was probably in the $40 to $60 range back then, but back in the late 60s, early 70s, a $40 to $60 fan was built a lot better than a $40 to $60 fan is today, and $40 to $60 went a lot more back in the late 60s, early 70s than it goes today. So just to clarify, I took everything apart and used isopropyl alcohol and Q-tips and paper towels to clean all the gunk off the shaft and the bushings, and then I used zoom spout oil to lubricate the wicks on the bushings, and then I put a little oil down in the bushings themselves and put it back together, and it's running. Now, thinking back to our Lasko and Galaxy box fans that we had whenever I was growing up, it seems like those got gunked up more often than usual, and I think I know why. Because my dad, he didn't know any better. Instead of taking the motors apart and actually cleaning them out and lubricating them with the proper oil, he would just put motor oil, like for an automobile, on there, and then it would eventually free up and it would run for the season. And then when you put it up for the winter, took it out again the next year, it would usually be seized up again from all the gunk. Well, two problems there. Number one, you shouldn't use automotive motor oil or any other kind of oil that has detergents in it in an electric motor. And number two, you have to get all the old gunk out. You know, putting fresh oil on top of old gunk is not going to help matters any. So I think had those fans been taken apart and properly cleaned and lubricated with the right oil, they might still be running. But I was in elementary school at the time, and I certainly didn't know any better, and obviously Dad didn't either. I remember my sister had one of those Galaxy box fans, and one day the motor in it went up in a ball of fire. So that one went in the garbage. But like I said, I'm going to let this run a while. It seems to be okay, and I may offer it back to them. I may not. I don't know. The only thing I'm afraid of is you offer something back to somebody and they take it, and then something does happen, like it goes up in smoke or catches on fire or whatever. Then of course I'm going to be the one that's going to catch the heat for it, because, well, you worked on it and you gave it back to me and it burned up, and I just don't want to hear any crap. So I haven't decided what I'm going to do yet. Alright, well, that's about all I've got for this. I hope you got something out of it, and more to come later.